Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM. And if you're enjoying the kind of stuff that you're seeing on the channel at the moment, how about giving this video a like and maybe subscribing to the channel to help us grow. A long time ago, way before LMM was even conceived, I was part of the YouTube channel JM on Cars. And when one of our first misadventures, and in fact our first breakout video, we headed off to buy an MG ZS. And despite driving this car everywhere, we eventually had to part with it. But I have very strong memories of absolutely loving it. And in the 5 years since we sold our ZS, I have driven a frankly incredible array of different vehicles. So surely this can't live up to the lofty expectations of a super fun, a great handling highlight of British engineering. Right? Of course, there's one way to find out. This is fantastic. This is every bit as good as I remember it being, maybe even a little better, as my standards throughout the years have definitely changed as I've been exposed to more things. But this is amazing. It rides amazingly well over these back Suffolk forest roads, and I am just blown away by how pleasant it is. It steers beautifully. I know I waxed lyrically when we had one about what a lovely handling machine it was. And I was right. It does. It instills such a sense of confidence with you, and it's so much fun to drive it down these roads. It's absolutely just genuinely, magnificently brilliant. And this just makes me happy. And I know a lot of that's going to be what the old one is and reliving those early days of the channel and YouTube and everything. But I think it's the car. I don't think it's rose-tinted glasses. That's not to say that everything's perfect. It has one of the single worst locks of any vehicle I think I've ever driven. It's awful. I've had to do maneuvers with this for filming and also just driving it about. And things that I can normally turn around and do in one single movement, in this, that's a shunt. That's two definitive moves. And I find that shocking. It's not that much of a big car. And I understand it's front wheel drive and that does limit some of the flexibility. But come on, there are limits. And this one, well, it's pushing those limits. It's shockingly bad. But that doesn't distract from just how much I am enjoying this car. It is by no means perfect, but it's certainly really, really good and put a massive smile on my face. I think that is the most important thing with any car. It smiles per mile, and this is a smile factory. So what's so special about this, I hear you ask? Undoubtedly, underneath there'll be some variation of the infamous K-series engine, or perhaps the high MPG achieving diesel. Well, no, because this, like the one we had before, is the flagship of the range. This is the ZS 180, and that means that squeezed in here is the KV6. A 2.5 litre, 175 brake horsepower producing a V6. And it really is squeezed in there. These things apparently were a complete pain in the backside to work on just because there is no room. Particularly, I think trying to do the rear spark plugs is unpleasant. And this one is complete with the obligatory aftermarket air filter, which I believe was actually law when these things came out. You had to have one of those, otherwise, oh, your street cred just went down. But just what does this 24 valve quad cam 6-cylinder thing actually mean, apart from having some serious bragging rights down the pub?
That means that it sounds amazing.
Oh my! It's not too loud. It's not in your face. It's a nice kind of subtle roar of power to remind you that it's a V6. And I like that. It's not too much. It's just the right volume. There is, of course, one problem with this car, and that's that it brings out the inner hooligan in you. It was the kind of car that was driven about by hooligans, and it makes me want to be a hooligan. It's laughably good fun, and I like that the car wants to bring out the worst in me, and I'm not sure if it's a good combination, but it really, I think that's really, really good. That's so much fun. This one, of course, is indeed the facelift, and I'll level with you. I never really liked the look of our old one. It never really clicked with me, but this one, I really, really like it. I like its look, I like the blue, and I particularly like these vents down the side. It all just comes together, and with this car, for me, it really kind of works. That said, this one here is not the best example of the breed. No, this one looks like it has been beaten by its previous owner. And that's a shame, because if it wasn't for all these little demerits, it would actually be a really nice looking car. That and the fact that it's been debadged. I don't know why people do this debadging thing, but without the badge here to break up the front, it doesn't really work. And it's the same for the back. Without the badge in the middle, it's just a big lump of nothingness. It needs that to break it up. There are some real highlights for me though, things like the obnoxiously large wing on the back. Now, you could spec this car to not have that, but I don't know anybody who would, because that makes it cool. This really does have the same kind of look and feel to it as, say, the Subaru Impreza. And I know it's not really what you expect from a British car to be going down that line, but particularly in this blue, that's the way I'm going with it. The interior is somewhat lacking on account of a fair amount of it not actually being present in the car. I'm missing a door card and the roof lining, and I'll be honest, this does somewhat detract from the joy of driving this thing around. Feels very incomplete. Apart from that, for a car that came out in the mid-noughties, the interior of this feels somewhat dated. It's fine for me, and I actually rather like it. But when the car had its facelift, the interior didn't really change. There were some things like these horrendous covers on the air vents, which I despise. They're very naff. I particularly hate this system down here for controlling the temperature. Now, it's just naff, it's horrible, and I can't believe that something so awful made it into this car. But apparently they also use that one on the Zonda, which beggars belief. I don't like that. And I really don't like the aftermarket carbon fibre badly applied wrap that's on various items throughout here. The other thing that really lets this car down is the quality of the switches. That's nasty, and those aren't much better. I do like the dash. It's basically the same out of my TF. I like how it's laid out, I like the size, and I like the steering wheel. I like the horn buttons here, and I like the fact it says MG in the middle. There's lots of good things in here, and like some things don't feel too cheap. The door all feels nice. And now to the thing that annoys me most out of everything on the interior. I have a little toggle switch here for my window next door to my door handle, but obviously there's only one, and that won't control that side. So that one is down here. Why on earth they couldn't have put 2 switches and had them just side by side here so you can control both of them, I don't know. I just really annoys me having the asymmetrical nature of having this one here, that one there. It annoys me on a base level. It just feels shoddy, and like somebody went, oh, the driver might need to do the passenger side. Oh yeah, how are we going to do that? Oh, I know, we'll remove their switch and put it here. I don't know why. Just put them both there. It just hugely annoys me. Apart from that, it's very comfortable. The seats are actually quite nice and surprisingly comfortable. The whole thing's actually surprisingly comfortable, and the feel through all of it is superb. There is one major bugbear that I do have with this car, and that is the boot. It is quite spacious. I think 4 adults could realistically quite happily go away and fit everything in there. But if you're like me and you frequently need to transport things which are not designed to fit within the confines of a standard boot and need to put the seats down, there are 2 very annoying pieces of plastic which come in to the side, which stop you from using the full width of the car. And that has now, on many occasions, stopped me from transporting the thing I actually wanted to transport. I don't know why they're there. I don't know what support they're there to perform or reinforce, but I think they're so aggravating because they stop this, for me personally, from being a really useful big load space. At a time when Rover MG was really floundering, this car was a complete breath of fresh air. Yes, it's based on the Rover 45, but with its completely revised Honda suspension, this was set up for performance rather than comfort. In fact, the RAC in one of their publications said that this was better than the Golf Mach 5, and Auto Express remarked their amazement that the rather dowdy 45 could be turned into this fire-breathing dragon. And my favourite quote comes from carenthusiast.com, which says, when young lads start lusting over what's basically a rebadged and re-engineered Rover 45, you've obviously got something special. And you know what? This really is. This is something really special. In fact, the entire range that came out with this are cars that I really like. And that's very unusual for me, but I love the ZT. I love the Rover 75 that it's based on, and I particularly love and really want, one of my all-time big wish cars is the MG ZR in trophy yellow with the VVC. And of course, I own an MG TF, and I absolutely love that as well. The entire range I love and like, and I would have all of these in a garage of my own. I absolutely love this generation of cars, and perhaps until I'd got back in it, I'd forgotten just how much I'd missed it, because it is every bit as good as I remember. The final generation of British cars. Finally, we got it right. I'm always really excited when Papa JM lets me take out one of the fleet. And there are certain things that I really do like in his collection. The Ferraris, the GT4, the S2000. But this, out of all of them, this is the car I think I'd actually have. Because not only did we have one, and there's all the memories of me and him working to build JM on cars and what's led to Lawrie's mechanical marvels, but the fact that this is a genuinely fun and good car. Something relatively unusual. I mean, I certainly haven't seen one of these when I've been driving around, and I can't actually remember the last time I saw one of these full stop apart from this one here. And when I last took one out, I used to think, well, this car was brilliant. But back then I was young and naive, and I didn't know what I know now about cars. I hadn't driven the variety of vehicles that I now have. So obviously, times have changed, and maybe this car isn't what it was cracked up to be. And then you remember that it's got a V6 in it, and it does things like this. my. Yeah, it's every bit as good as I remember it being. It's super good fun. It makes great noise. It travels remarkably well over the roads. It also meant that this car had a best in range 0 to 60 time of 7.3 seconds, and that's still quite respectable. So as I rejoin the dual carriageway here, let's see how many of the 173 horses have escaped in the 17 years since this left Longbridge. So here we go. This is Longbridge's finest versus the dual carriageway. Here we go. I don't know what we got there, but that felt very good. That felt very, very rapid indeed. Oh, what a super little car. I absolutely love this car, and I would have one if it was not for one fact. Another similar car exists, and that is the MG ZR, preferably the VVC, in yellow. I lust after that car, so if there's anybody watching this video who knows of one that needs a good home, let me know, because I'd have that over this in a heartbeat, because I think they look awesome. If that car didn't exist, I'd want one of these, because I think particularly the facelift looks good, it drives great, and it's just one of those cars that's a good all-rounder. I feel like I could drive this to Scotland and be happy and comfortable, poor, certainly because of the V6, but I'd enjoy it. I could put all my luggage in the back for me and my friends, and when I want to be a hoodlum, this car is certainly a hoodlum car. It's so good! It's just a really good all-rounder, like a genuinely good, it does everything. People say a car, when we look at things like, I don't know, the Vauxhall Mocha, and you go, well, yeah, it's a car, it's a good car, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with it. But a good car should be something like this. This is a very good car. And James not getting it back, frankly. It's got an MOT coming up, so he can have it back when the MOT's due. Because I'm just going to drive this around absolutely everywhere. Is it going to cost me money? Yes. Am I going to be upset about that? No. Not in the least. Because this is what cars are meant to do. They're meant to make you happy. You're meant to want to go for a drive. You're meant to enjoy them. And this one, oh, this just does that so well. Well done, James. The Ferraris and things, yeah, they're cool. But this I'm jealous of.